Well, welcome back to You Can Homeschool with Tracey Hagerman and Pat Fenner, your hosts. This week, Tracey will not be on our show. I have the privilege of interviewing her daughter, Brooke, because this is the second in the series that we're doing about, homeschool graduates. Where are they now? What are they doing? And so I will be talking to Brooke, and we thought it was a little more authentic to be interviewing each other's kids. So you get the real story behind homeschooling. So anyway, Brooke, thank you so much for taking some time out of your schedule. I know you are home right now on break, and perhaps you could tell us a little bit about what are you doing right now? And let's start with there.
Okay, well, hi, thanks for having me. um, so currently I'm actually working in a sales position for a solar developer out in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Woot woot. Yeah, so I graduated in the spring from university and I got a job and I moved. So that's pretty much what I've been up to.
Okay, right. So you're out and about out in the world now. Tell us a little bit about your homeschooling background. Like how long were you homeschooled? Uh, do you have siblings, and where do you fit in the family? That's kind of always interesting.
Yeah, so I was actually homeschooled from kindergarten to grade 12.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and my last year of university, I did like a little bit of sorry, my last year of homeschooling, I did a little bit of split between university and
Mm.
high school.
Mhm.
But then I'm the youngest child. I'm the baby. I'm the third. I have an older brother and an older sister. Um, so my mom was homeschooling them before me, obviously, but we
Mhm.
all went straight through from, yeah.
Okay, great, great. Did you overall, would you say you enjoyed homeschooling? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually have ADHD, and
Okay.
I only found out when I was in my first year of university.
Oh.
So I look back now and I'm very thankful for being homeschooled because I don't think I would have done very well in a traditional school setting.
Mm.
My mom was able to, take the time on things that I struggled with and find alternate ways of teaching me
Mhm.
um, that I don't think would have happened. So yeah, I'm very very happy that I was homeschooled, and there are obviously ups and downs, but
Mhm.
because
Yep.
when your teacher is also your mom, sometimes school bleeds into like your life. But yeah, it was overall a good experience.
Mhm. What would you say, looking back, what are the top, I don't know, two or three things that you like the most about it?
Oh, I love the freedom of time. So
Mm.
I work much better at night. So I would be able to like get up in the morning and, go outside and hang out with my siblings, play board games, and then be able to get my schoolwork done in the evening, because that works just best for me. And I really like the amount that, we're not at home. My mom always jokes that we were homeschooled, but we were never at home.
Yes.
I'm sure she said that before. um,
Yes.
but like Monday nights we would have like gymnastics or dance, and then like Wednesdays I was in scouting. Thursdays we went to an all-day co-op. Fridays was youth group. The weekends sometimes I was at camp. Sometimes I was with friends. So I like the ability to be like, oh, let's learn about science. Let's go to the museum. Um,
Mhm.
Instead of like, ah, yes, let's sit down in this classroom and
Right.
hear someone talk for 7 hours.
Yeah, that's pre-pandemic. That was a very similar experience, for a lot of homeschoolers. I mean, that was kind of the joy that we got to be able to be so flexible with time, and we can still be flexible with time. It's just that now with the pandemic, you just don't. A lot of things have been closed. The last couple of years have been really hard on homeschoolers too, because we had a similar situation that we were homeschooled, and I mean, our kids, we homeschooled, but there were some semesters, I'd have to say, no, we're not doing anything else. We have to do something at home.
Yeah.
So what would you say? Okay, well, let's do the flip the other side of the coin too. I'm sure there were one or two things that maybe you weren't so crazy about homeschooling. Do you want to share them?
My mom listens to this when she
That's okay. I'll stick up for you. I'll protect you.
No, one of the things that I found very difficult was um again trying to find that clear line between like where is my teacher and where is my mom. And so like I'm very open about the fact my mom and I had a bit of a rough go when I was, like 12, 13. I was,
Hmm.
becoming a teenager. I have a focus like issue
Right.
and I didn't want to get my school done. Or I wasn't able to, I guess.
Hmm.
So it definitely can cause like a little bit of, like arguments and stuff that you would
Hmm.
be able to leave at school, I guess.
Right.
Um, yeah, but like it's much better now and like
Mhm.
um yeah, but other than that, like I don't have really that many, things that I look back and I'm like, "Oh, that was terrible."
Right. Even keeping in mind some bad days that didn't color your whole experience, in other words, is that
Oh
fair to
yeah,
say?
no, not at all.
Mhm.
I feel like I would have had a much worse time in school than than
Yeah.
home.
So what would you say were some of the non-academic benefits of homeschooling?
One of the things that I have actually come to realize is a huge benefit of homeschooling,
Hmm.
um, is the amount that I don't subscribe to like cliques. And I don't have like a group of friends who, exactly think like me and, you know, um, I had the opportunity because we had so much time to meet so many different people from so many different walks of lives and
Hmm.
ideas, and I'm able to sit down with somebody and have a conversation and hear where they're coming from
Hmm.
instead of just immediately being like, "Oh no, I don't agree with you, so like you're wrong and
Right.
that's just dumb." Um, I'm able to, yeah, I think that's a fantastic thing with homeschooling, and also um I I also got to avoid a lot of the like craziness kids go through in middle school.
Mm. Yeah.
um and like I would be like sitting with my university friends and they'd be like, "Oh, do you remember in like middle school if you even talked to a guy, then people would be like, 'Oh, you're dating.' And then you felt like awful about everything. Then you're like, 'What do I do?'" I was like, "I never experienced that. I grew up with friends who were guys, who have friends who were girls."
Hmm.
Um and like to this day, I see my friends who were raised in, the public school system, or
Right.
not raised, but grew up in the public school system, and they still struggle with those things. And yeah, a lot of people think that people who are homeschooled are really like awkward and shy and, like can't socialize. We definitely socialize in a different way. There's definitely some social cues
Yeah.
that I just gone over my head. But I think I was very gifted in a lot of other spaces.
Well, there is a benefit with being able to interact with people at different ages. I think all of us are awkward initially, sometimes
Yeah.
with meeting new people and stuff. And I think just being around adults, though, more often, like you obviously were and stuff, just helps you develop tools to get over that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like knowing that, despite it being awkward, giving somebody the freedom to like flounder a little bit before they before they get there. I think is something a lot of kids don't get to experience in school because everyone's so quick to jump on them for every little thing.
Yeah.
And like I'm a very awkward human. I will be in like a work meeting sometimes and I'll just like lose my train of thought. I'm a salesperson. I'm supposed to know what I'm talking about. I do know what I'm talking about. But sometimes I'll just like completely lose track of my words and I'll just be like, ha, words. Oh, aren't they weird? And then people will just like look at me like, oh, she handled that so cool. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on either, but it's not shameful.
Right. Yeah. That's really important. Especially this day and age with mental health is such an issue, and with Brene Brown doing all of the books and courses on shame. That really is hot button. I mean, that happens a lot too. People are very quick to feel shame.
Yes.
Um, let's see. What would you do differently if you had it to do again? What would you do differently?
Um, I I wish I had known I had ADHD younger.
Mm.
Um,
Hmm.
although I have to say, when I was first diagnosed, I was not happy. I remember like the stigma around it growing up and like with different people I knew who had it, and I was just like, no, that's not me. Um, but I wish that that was something that I had known, because
Mm-hmm.
I would have been able to implement strategies that I use now a lot earlier. And I think
Hmm.
that would have saved a lot of headache for myself and my mom. um, but I can't think of anything else that I would do different. Like I'm really happy with where I've ended up in life,
Hmm.
despite any of the trials that might have gotten me here. So
Hmm. Wow, that's a very healthy approach to take. That's great.
thank you.
What are some of your favorite memories from homeschooling? Do you have things that you think about when you think about homeschooling and maybe with your siblings or you're laughing already? So think.
I am laughing. So, um, when I was homeschooled, we used a history program. I think it was called Learning Adventures.
Uh-huh.
And basically, what it did is we went through different time periods, starting with ancient Egypt, and then we did like ancient Greece and ancient Rome. I think we did up to the Middle Ages, something like that.
Hmm.
Well, when we were doing ancient Rome, at the end of every time period, you would have a feast with like the different type of food, and you would dress up for it, and it was like a
Hmm.
lot of fun. It was great. It incorporated like history. It incorporated like home skills, like home ec skills,
Right.
and it was just a ton of fun. But when we were sorry. When we were doing the Roman one, we were all dressed up in like togas of like
Mhm.
bed sheets, and we were lounging around a like super low table in our kitchen, and just eating with our hands, and it was like ridiculous. And all I remember is my mom being like, "Wouldn't it be really funny if someone came to the door right now?" And to this day, like no one did, but to this day, the image of someone just arriving and just being like, "What is going on?" is yeah, definitely one of my favorites.
I remember that too, doing that era. Something about the ancient Rome and Greece studies stands out in a lot of people's memories.
Yes.
Mm.
I actually fell in love with classics so much that I took 4 university courses that were classics.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
something. Hmm. Do you think that sometimes the argument against homeschooling that I hear a lot is, my kids would kill each other or I'd kill my kids or whatever. But how do you think, or do you think there was an influence on your relationships with your siblings because of homeschooling? You think that affected that at all?
I think so. But like not in a bad way.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, I think it really forced us to work through any issues that we had,
Mm.
because you were stuck in the house together. If you weren't getting along, and my brother and I, my older brother and I, we fought like cats and dogs for
Oh.
years. And my sister would be like, would try and be the peacemaker. My mom always jokes that she didn't realize how much my brother and I fought until my sister had moved to go on like a
Oh.
mission trip. She was like, I didn't know. Um, but despite that, my brother and I are like super close now, and my sister as well, because we had to overcome it. We had
Right.
to be there for each other and deal with things together. Whereas like I know some friends who went to school, like they wouldn't see their siblings all day. If they were mad at them in the evening, they'd just slam themselves in their room. Like
Hmm.
they wouldn't have to deal with that.
Right.
And I also think it depends on like whoever is teaching as well.
Mm.
So my mom would not stand for she wouldn't stand for us like arguing and actually being angry at each other. It would
Right.
have to be, if there was a huge argument that happened that she could foresee blowing up in the future, she would make
Mm-hmm.
us sit down and work it out, which is not
Mm.
something you always, encounter or
Right.
people have the time for. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. I'll bet you didn't always enjoy that though, growing up.
No. Very much not so.
Can't
I'm
we just fight like normal kids?
exactly.
Well, let's see. Do you think do you plan on having kids someday? Or I mean, I'm not to get in your business, but in general, here's a better question. Here's in general, if you have kids in the future, can you see yourself homeschooling them?
That is a really good question that I find myself going back and forth on all of the time.
Uh-huh.
Um, because like I really like working, which is
Mm.
weird because a lot of people are in university and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to work." And I got out and I started working and I was like, "This is fantastic." Um, like I only have to be at work for a set number of hours and then I'm free. I can do whatever I want. I don't know if I have the patience that my mom has. And I remember what I was like growing up, and she always says, what goes around comes around. And
Oh.
um, I'm not sure if I would be able to do it. I think it really does take a very special, very caring person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and But on the flip side, I have many issues with the way that the school system is run from what I have witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I really think that there are so many amazing teachers out there who aren't being given the freedom
Right.
to teach in a way that, is helpful. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it would really have to come down to the time. I know that's a really long answer.
No, that's okay. It's not a quick, I mean, I don't think anybody starts homeschooling just like at the drop of a hat, wakes up one morning. Yeah, I think I'll do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends what you're saying. I guess it depends on your situation and the environment and stuff when that time comes.
Yeah, yeah. And it also would depend on, like my future husband, like what he thinks as well, because that's a huge commitment from both parents.
Hmm.
To be able to, one is supporting or like mainly supporting while the other is teaching. Like those are both huge important roles to play in that.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy. So let's see. I want to ask you again a couple more questions. Uh, so you said you did attend university. Did you tell me about that transition? Like when you went from homeschool high school, because you said you graduated.
yeah.
How was that transition into university? Was that difficult for you, or went pretty smoothly, or how would you say that went?
So that's very interesting, honestly. So I actually started going to college. So
Mm-hmm.
like in Canada, like it's college is more of a hands-on experience versus university, which is more academic.
Mm-hmm.
So just for anyone who's not
Yeah,
in Canada,
that's
I
helpful.
make that distinction for a reason.
Right.
But I actually started going to a college course when I was in grade 11. And
Okay.
I took one course and did the rest of my school. And then in grade 12, I did a Head Start program at Ottawa U. And I took 2 university courses, one a semester.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then when I actually started university, I went to Memorial University in Newfoundland. So I had a very gradual step
Mm.
into post-secondary,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was a really good way of doing it. And I
Mm-hmm.
know it's not always possible for
Right.
everyone, but it really helped me be able to transition to a different style of learning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then on top of that, my mother has always been very much about preparing me for university
Mm-hmm.
because it's never been a question in my house if I was going to post secondary. It was a question of, are you going to a trade school? Are you going to a college? Are you going to university?
Right.
There were no other options.
Right.
um, yeah. Because here in Ontario, you don't get a high school diploma if you've been homeschooled. So I needed
Oh,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
interesting. I didn't know that. Hmm.
yeah, it differs like province to province, but here, yeah, it's not something unless you register and go through the school board,
Mm-hmm.
but you still have to follow all of their same stuff. So
Right. Right. So,
not really exactly homeschooling in the way
yeah.
that most people would homeschool.
Right.
Yeah, but I am getting so off topic.
No, no, that's interesting. Yeah. That's
Uh,
in the States they have it's called dual enrollment. It's similar to that.
okay.
Where you're taking college courses and that's how our family used it as well to kind of transition because we did co-ops and stuff so the kids knew how to study in learning groups, but the
Yeah.
college environment's different.
Yes.
It's
Yes. And
definitely
my mother, as I mentioned, was very much all about preparing us for university. So,
right.
growing up, as soon as I hit grade 7, I think it was, I had to get an 85% or higher to pass a course or to like
Hmm.
pass a test, or else I'd have to go back and redo it.
Hmm.
Um, excuse me. um, so when I got to university, I was in my first semester of first year, and I got like a 70 like 9 or something on a test, and I got it back and I was freaking out because I was like, "Oh my gosh, I failed." I am like, "Oh, I'm paying so much money for this." And like I can't believe I failed. And I'm like sitting beside this girl that I'd only known for about 2 weeks at the time. So this was one of our
Oh.
first tests. And she's looking over at me and she's like, "Oh, like what'd you get? Like, you failed, you got like a 40." And I was like, "No, I got a 79. I can't believe that I did this." And she's like, "You got a 79 and you're complaining?" Like, "Yeah, I didn't pass." And she was like, "A pass is a 50. What are you talking about?"
Oh no.
I had no idea. I was fully under the impression that you had to get higher than an 85% or more to pass a course.
So I would imagine that evening you went home and had a conversation with your mom, called her up, and
Oh yeah, I called her up like pretty much as soon as I stepped out of the classroom, and I was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And she's like, "I just wanted you to be prepared so that, you have your correct study habits, you work hard." And after that, honestly, like I I definitely did fail some things here and there. I passed all my courses, but there were
right.
certain um it became a lot less stressful.
I'll bet it did.
I was just like, I only have to get a 50. And everyone's like, "Oh, I'm like gonna fail this course." And I'm like, I stay above a
I
65 or a
I can
70.
do
I am
this.
happy. So, good helpful trick. Yeah, trick your kids into thinking they need higher grades and they actually do. They're gonna
Well,
be solid going
I
into
was I was about to ask you if you had any words of wisdom, but I don't know if we want to share that. So but okay, but we are kind of reaching the end of our time here. But do you have any words of wisdom for, actually, really for any homeschoolers that are listening to this in high school or moms of high schoolers?
Hmm.
Do you have any words of wisdom or encouragement for them? For
Um, yeah. So to all the parents who might be homeschooling, much respect to you because as
oh,
I mentioned earlier, I don't know if I could do it. um, and don't be afraid to let your kids find the way that they learn best,
mm,
even if it's not the way that you learn best.
very good.
And to all the kids out there who are being homeschooled, I know it doesn't always seem like it, but you really are in one of the best school systems that there are. Um, and it's okay to be on a different level than any of your siblings.
Mm,
Don't compare yourself to them.
mhm.
If you ask a gorilla and a fish to climb a tree, and the gorilla's gonna win, but that doesn't mean the fish is not smart. It just means that if you ask a gorilla and a fish to swim a race, one's gonna win over the other. So
Yep.
like, take the time to find where you excel best at and take pride in that, even if it's not, you know, even if it's not what you think is worth it, because somebody out there is going to need your specific skill set. And, I just think everyone has something that they're great at. So, yeah, that
That's
works.
a beautiful note on which to end this, Brooke. Well, I really want to thank you so much for your time. I know I kind of pulled you away from your family this week, so I do appreciate that. And we wish you well on your continued career and your new life and everything. You're just, the future looks so bright. You got to wear shades, right?
Ah, solar company, I like it.
That's right.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Oh, yes, it was a pleasure talking to you. All right, well, everybody, I hope you have been encouraged by listening to a homeschool graduate and finding out that she is indeed socialized. She can have a conversation. You are not warping your children and ruining them for life. You're doing them a great service and a great blessing. And I know that God is just looking down on you, smiling. So, I guess we'll see you next week. And in the meantime, I will give you the encouragement Tracy usually shares. Uh, don't be afraid. You can homeschool. You can do this, and it can be a wonderful lifestyle. Take care, everybody. See you next week.